So I came out because there's a lull in the wind. It's been blowing on and off. You'll get like 10 minutes of pretty calm weather, but still cloudy and a little bit of wind. And you'll get sometimes another 10-20 minutes of pretty strong gusts. I would say I haven't seen anything more than 30 knots as a gust, maybe 35. And I'm not trying to dismiss it or try to sound like a tough guy, but we were lucky here. Again, that's why you choose Jacksonville as your location to hide out for the season. Because this storm went ashore in Fort Myers, which is almost 300 miles south of here, I think, maybe more. And it depowers a lot as it passes over the land. Hurricanes get their strength from the warm water that they pass over. Here's a gust. Can you hear that sound? That howling sound is being made by the wind passing over all of these steel cables, all the wire rigging. Pretty eerie sound. I don't care for it myself. You'll see the dinghy is full of water and you think, oh my God, she's flooding. Well, that's intentional. I have it connected to the davit still. I have a safety line tied to it, and I pulled the plug and I left the bow elevated. Oh my God. That's a pretty good one. Yeah. So the dinghy is pretty in good shape. It looks bad, but it'll drain right out, and I'll just rinse her down, and that'll be that. Oh my goodness. So a lot of people ask me, what did I do to prepare? Well, I doubled up most of my mooring lines, certainly the mooring lines that are protecting me from a wind coming from that direction. So my bow lines are doubled, my spring line is doubled, same on the starboard side. Extra lines on top of my solar panels and the bimini to hold it down, just in case. So that's a safety precaution. I put extra lines on my sail cover. One day, I guess we all just get too old for this kind of bullshit. Alrighty, so first question, why am I leaving the marina right now? Well, it was September 30th and I booked for August and September, and you know, when the month is over and you stop paying, you have to leave. And a big part of that is me forcing myself to move on and do different things, because I get lazy. And you don't discover bad things, you don't fix the right things if the longer you stay. You just get lazy and do easy jobs. So it's good that I move on. Here you see me actually just testing out a new pump that I bought. I never used it before, so I thought, let's just see how this thing works and how I would make my connections. High tide. At a high level, even though we got to witness some powerful nature, I did not have any damage, and I think nobody in our marina suffered any damage to their boats. So I immediately got to work getting my boat set up to go live out at anchor. And that includes for me a composting head, because I don't have a holding tank. So I have to bust up these coconut fibers, get them wet, put them in the solids container, and set up my composting toilet and get all that ready to roll, and that's all fine. And then, you know, you look around and you realize it's time to go. And it's kind of hard to say goodbye to your friends, but you know, some great friends helped me get underway, and you know, I'm going to miss them a lot. One thing I've always been pretty good at is maneuvering boats in tight quarters, and so this is sped up at about 8 times the normal speed, of course, but I slowly got my way out of there. Had abnormally high tide, which was a good thing for me, because I draw 6 feet and I had been plowing mud to get in there.
Thanks guys, take care.
See you, Russ, good luck.
We'll see you out there, right?
Yes, we will.
Just like that, 2 months has come and gone real quickly, and we're heading out to sea, likely never to return to this river. Hey, we're underway again. I'm like a mile away from where I was in the marina, across
across that peninsula, and past the bridge is where I was for 2 months. And now I'm headed up the St. Johns River. Up meaning up current, but the direction is actually south. Steering about 150 now. And mostly, I would say no concerns at all except for crab pots. So I'm better off with the engine off. Thinking about putting the Agatha into service and do some self-steering, but right now, pretty tight waters. I'm better off hand steering, I think, because the wind is coming and going. So we're feeling good. I've got about 10 knots of wind and it's just changing direction. So I think better for me to steer by hand for a while. And that's what I'm gonna do, but just beautiful. I love that moment when you shut off the engine. Yeah, so I talked about this with my friends Darren and Monica and also Asif. Well, it feels good to have pried my ass out of that marina. I mean, it was so comfortable living there. I could have very easily just stayed another month, you know, usually saying something like, well, hurricane season's not over yet, I should stay another month to be safe. And I could have done that, but I think if I stayed another month, by the time that month went by, I really would be very hard pressed to get myself on the move. It's the same kind of feeling I had in the St. Petersburg marina, and then again down at Marathon. I settle in pretty quickly, I make friends quickly, and then I get comfortable, and I really don't feel much like moving. So it's good for me. I know that I pried myself out of here, and I'm glad I did that. Yeah. And now I'm heading up the river towards that's the I-295 bridge in front of me. And today I'm not going far. It's already about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm just gonna go to trying to get under the bridge if I can make it without turning the engine on, and if not, I'll just pull off somewhere and anchor before the bridge and maybe motor in the morning and continue on. Oh my goodness, when the wind puffs up I can steer closer to the wind. So yeah, so today's goal is just to get past the bridge, and I'm going to pick a spot to anchor close to the windward shore there, and then I'm going to just sack out. Maybe and certainly spend the night. Probably tomorrow morning I'll put the sail back up and keep on heading down the river. Green Cove Springs about 15-20 miles away. So I've got a few hours of sailing. I'm only making 2 knots now because I'm going into the teeth of the current, so I'm not going quickly. So it'll take me a while to make it up to Green Cove, and that's fine. I've got all the time in the world. There's no hurry at all. You can anchor anywhere you want to, just pull into where the water out of the channel, and you get in about 3 meters of water, boop, drop the hook, and it's a mud bottom, and the holding will be pretty good, and it's not going to be blowing much tonight. It'll be calm tonight, so really there's very little to worry about, and I'll tell you that much. And this is my kind of sailing. You know, almost completely worry-free. I'm not stressed in any way, just relaxing. The only thing I wish is that the wind would come from about, from the northwest instead of the west. Then I could aim for my bridge, but no complaints. Well, that's the Naval Air Station. Probably I'm not allowed to take pictures of that, but I'm taking pictures anyway. The planes you see on the tarmac closest to me, those are helicopters, SH-60s, and there's some great big gray airplanes to my right there. One looks like it's taken off. So, but he'll be taking off the other direction because the wind is coming from that way.
Well, I really do love that peaceful, quiet sound of sailing, but it was not to last. I had to turn on the motor.
Hey there, well, that's the I-295 bridge ahead of me, correction, above me there, soon to be behind me, and I about had it for the day. The tide is dropping back there down river, so that means the water in the river is starting to rush a little more quickly, and I can feel it in the boat. And it's been a full day. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm going to go over there somewhere. I want to get far enough away from the highway that I don't have to listen to that sound all night. And then I'm going to drop the anchor. So I'll figure half a mile ought to do it. I'm going about 3.5 knots. So if you can do that math, half a mile, almost 4 knots. That's about almost. I'm going to call it 10 minutes and call that rounded up. So 10 minutes will put me at 10 after 4. It's 4 o'clock exactly now. So when I get to 4:10, then I'm going to pull in and quit. Cheers. I want that anchor beer. That's what I want. Anchored on the St. Johns River. That's the I-295 bridge. I'm facing more or less north-ish. I know that because over here the sun is going down. It's a beautiful sunset. This is not an anchorage per se. It's just a shallow spot in the river. And the wind is dying down. It's going to be an easy, comfortable night. I'm going to sleep like a rock, man. Gorgeous. Hey there. So I was laughing at my hair. I can see it in the camera. Today's October 2. I hear the train going. I can hear the traffic on I-295's bridge, and I'm getting ready to pull the anchor up and sail on up to Green Cove Springs. I'm going against a current. It looks like a downriver current, which is kind of normal. You'd expect in a river. It's going about 1 knot, but I got a pretty good breeze. It's cold, but a cold breeze, but it's from the northeast-ish, I think. Hard to tell. Northwest, I'm sorry. And I should be able to sail with that, kind of do a broad reach, hopefully get there. I'm about 18 miles away from Green Cove Springs. I mean, I think 4 hours ought to do it. You know, maybe 5 hours is fine, 6 hours is fine. I really don't care. And if I get tired and I want to anchor and sleep, I'll do that too, and I'll just go in tomorrow. So it's no big worries either way, no matter what happens. It doesn't look like a really difficult path. The river does get more narrow than it was further up there by the air station. So it's when you get a tighter river, you'd expect the negative current flow to be stronger, which is not good. So I have to have a pretty good set of winds to even make forward progress. So we'll see how that goes. Well, if I'm just standing here drinking a cup of tea from a normal cup instead of a bottle, and I'm not hanging on to anything, that tells you one of several things. I'm either in a marina or I'm at anchor, but neither of those is true. And the third choice is I'm at sea, technically, but I'm on the river. The wave action is very, very quiet, and the wind action is pretty slow as well. And I'm going up current, so I'm barely making any forward motion at all over ground. I'm cutting through the water about 1.5 knots, but I'm entering a choke point on the river where the current is going to be going even faster. So I might, if I want to progress at all, I'm going to have to probably turn on the engine if the wind doesn't pick up. But I am content to give it another hour like this because it's calm and it's quiet and nothing is being hurt and I'm not in a hurry, so there's really no problem. And I can see the waves picking up ahead, a little ripple on the water, which tells me I'm going to get some wind in this minute here. So well, I'm content. I'm happy. Got no complaints. I mean, my speed over ground is 0 right now. 0. I can see the bubbles going by the boat, so I'm moving through the water at about 1 knot, 1.5 knots, at least, you know. But again, the water is moving the opposite direction. So what are you going to do? Turn on the engine is the only other choice. And I really just don't want to do that yet. I mean, I don't need to make it to Green Cove Springs even today. If I make about 10 miles today, I'll be more than content, and I'll find another place to anchor tonight because I don't want to sit here and just drive the engine for 4 hours. I've done that before, and it's not fun. It's noisy. So it's kind of difficult to maintain a heading because I barely have any water movement past the rudder. But I had some, and the wind's coming in about 1 minute, I think. I'll show you here. Yeah, so the wind, let's turn this paper around. You can see in front of the boat now. So you can look out there, and you can see the kind of flat water immediately in front of me, and to the left side of me over there. It's like glassy. It's got slow ripples, but not enough. And you can see beyond it, it gets a little more vigorous. And that's where the wind is. So I can feel it already. The wind's blowing across my body, so I can feel that. And I'm going to get back on the helm because when the sails fill, I've got a bit of weather helm. You see me turning into the wind. And the wind's coming from over here. The wind's coming this way from the starboard side. And you can see I'm veering to starboard, so I got to get back on the helm.
going forward through the water, albeit slowly, I'll grant you, but the current is going this way pretty rapidly toward the bridge down there. And that's the way out to sea. And my heading just a minute ago was that direction. So yeah, so my heading was that direction a minute ago on the GPS, so, which means I'm actually sailing forward but progressing backwards, which is kind of a bummer. I can see the ripples on the water, and I'm going to wait 5 more minutes to see if I can get some wind. And at 10 o'clock, if there's absolutely going to be no wind, then I need a motor for a while. And I'll just drive for a couple hours under the motor, and then I'll quit for the day. Wait for better conditions. I want to get past it. That is a sunken sailboat. Just the mast sticking out, 2 masts actually, sticking out of the water. So some old ketch meant her end. I don't know if that was due to the recent storm or if that sunk maybe long, long ago. I don't know. Those are bald eagles. Oh, awesome. Shit. Wow. Anyway, it's good to get greeted by bald eagles. The only way it could have been better is if dolphins came too. I'm still sorting out the boat after dropping the anchor just a few minutes ago. I'll do my engine PMs. I got to straighten the main sheets, jib sheets, and put away all the reefing lines and all the hoo-ha, and maybe put out more anchor scope because I have tons of room here. So looking around, that came out later. That's a sunken sailboat. It's my neighbor in the anchorage here. And on this side, beside the Eagles, there's another boat, but an anchor, another anchored ship here. But beyond it, there's a lot of bigger boats that I didn't expect. That's Green Cove Spring. So I see the water tower marking the town, and I see some pretty good sized boats that look like river cruise boats to me. And further down is what they call the old government docks, I think. Those are the docks that used to be home to a U.S. Navy mothball fleet. This is the site of an old military base, I believe. To the left is a bridge. I don't remember what street it is or what highway route, but that's a bridge I can't go under. Its height is only like 45 feet, and it takes 56 feet, so I can't proceed beyond that point. Yeah, so today it's already almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know if I feel like trying to figure out where to go ashore yet. I'll check the cruise guide. I've got a guidebook for the St. John's River, believe it or not. I'm going to check with that book, and I'm going to get on the radio and see if anybody else is on the radio. And then I'm going to maybe tomorrow either bicycle down there, if I can find a place to go ashore, or take the sailboat down to the end of those government docks and drop the anchor over there. Didn't feel like messing with that today, but tomorrow I'll feel like it. So we'll see. But for now, I'm settled. We're not dragging anchor already, so we're doing good, and I'll sleep well again tonight. Well, hey there. Thank you for watching. It's October 3. I'm going to finish this video up and figure out a way to load her up to the YouTube today or tomorrow. I'm feeling a bit frumpy this morning for several reasons. First, excuse me, the weather changed. A cold front went through, which is not the end of the world. And that always brings, I saw the winds clocking yesterday. They came from the west when I arrived, and they clocked around to the east, and then they clocked around to the north, and that's where they're at now, blowing with vigor. And that's fine. That's a normal cold front process. And I've got north winds, but this anchorage is not protected against the north wind, so it's pretty bouncy. And of course, it's bad for operating the dinghy. And of course, it makes me worry about dragging anchor. So all those things kind of, it's a shitty way to wake up when it's cold and it's dark and you can't see and you're bouncing around, and you know, all those worries come to mind again. We've talked about that before, me being a worrywart. Okay, and second thing is, yesterday, right after I anchored, and right after I finished that last video clip, in fact, I was pretty happy with myself and had a good trip down here. But as part of my normal PMs when I'm done and I anchor is I check my battery state. Every morning, every night I check bilge, battery, barometer, stuff like that.
And the battery, after having just run the diesel for 2 hours, was less than 80% charged. And I'm going, what the hell? You know, how can that be? How can that be? It should have been fully charged if I was running the engine with a new alternator this whole time. And it was a bright sunny day, so if not that, the solar panel should have kept them up. So something was really sucking the battery down, and I had to conclude it was a new ignition circuit that I installed. So I'm going to back up. So the new alternator required an ignition input, which this boat did not have. So I designed one myself, and I wired it up myself, and I put in a switch that before I could push the button and start the engine, I would have to operate the switch, then I could start my engine and leave the switch on while the engine's running, so the generator had the ignition source. Like your key switch in your car, when you turn it that first click. Somewhere in there's a big problem. So I cycled the switch this morning to see how many amps it drew, and when I turned the switch on, I heard it physically break internally, and then I couldn't turn the damn switch off. And I'm going, oh, for God's sake. So now I had something drawing 6 amps, and I couldn't turn the damn switch off. And I'm thinking we're going to have a damn fire, blah, blah, blah. And this is all within the first 5 minutes of waking up, mind you. So kind of a pissy way to wake up. But now, oh, and even worse, and then my stove wouldn't work. So I tried to turn on the stove to make my hot tea, and the little click, click, clicker, the auto igniter, does not work. And I'm going, shit, so I have to get a lighter, and I have to do it that way. And it's just, that's a $1,500 stove from Dickinson Stove. Piece of garbage. Should have bought a $200 special. Anyway, enough bitching. So I would say you take that step back, okay, and it's that's life in general, and life has its ups and downs, and cruising has its ups and downs. There'll be days when I'm relaxing on a beautiful beach, drinking a drink with an umbrella in it, and life is great. And there could be days like this when you wake up, you're worried about dragging anchor, you're cold, you can't get hot tea, you're worried about your battery, blah, blah, blah. So I'm shutting everything off, trying to save battery power until the sun comes up, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's the day's been so far. But here's what I've resolved. I'm going to design once and for all my electric system. I've been hodgepodging this since the day I bought the boat. I guessed at how many amp hours I needed on the battery. I guessed when I first bought the boat at how many solar panels I would need. And I don't think I was too far off, but I really have never designed a system holistically. And I'm going to go buy a generator as part of that. I'm going to get a darn generator, and I'm going to, if I need to call a professional to install an alternator for me and see what I did wrong, then I guess I just need to do that. I can't go to sea like this always worried about my electric power. You just can't live that way. So I'm going to use the next few weeks as an advantage, because I'll stay here, I think, and I probably won't go ashore today because of the weather, but I'll get ashore, and I'll find somebody who's willing to come to the boat, or I'll find a place in a marina somewhere on this planet to go get the stuff I need and get it installed, and all the stuff I need to do to finish, so that by the end of October I am ready to cross the Gulf Stream and head for the Bahamas with a boat that has a functional battery / power system. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, the specific questions I would have is, where the hell did I put all my AA batteries? Because I know I had some. I can't find them. That's one. You don't need to help me with that one. The second one is, what's the best kind of alternator to get for the boat? And how do they get hooked up? And do they really need ignition source? What happens if you don't have one? All that kind of stuff. I need to get a little educated, because alternators aren't the way they used to be for me. And I'm thinking back to my 1980s knowledge of generators and motors. So maybe something's happened that I don't understand. Obviously I don't understand it. So that's one. And the second thing is, I'm going to buy a new generator. I'd like to get a little diesel generator for the boat. But again, first I'm going to calculate what my predicted load would be. And I'm going to end up, I'm sure one day I'll have a water maker. I need to know how much power that draws. And that would be the big power draw user and the fridge. So once I got a generator. So none of this is a complaint. I'm actually still in pretty good spirits and getting better by the minute now that I have hot food and hot tea to drink, and I didn't blow myself up with the stove. So I'm going to start by disconnecting the switch I installed for the ignition so that I can start the engine in an emergency, because right now I can't start the engine, and that is not a good situation to be in. So I'll take care of that. I'll give you guys an update next week. Take care.